Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is round 6. This tournament is shaping up well. We have two amazing competitors here. We have Thomas at the top of the screen, new up-and-comer, truly trying to bring some really revolutionary decks, but seems to have a light crush on Joan of Arc, as keeps appearing in all of his decks. Now, looking with a great thought of Joan of Arc, Invisible Woman, and Scarlet Witch with Cthulhu in reserve, Onslaught Citadel, one of the most powerful battle sites out there. On the flip side, we have Charlie. We did get to see him earlier. Hopefully he is more focused and ready to take this game down, and he is playing Beyonder, X-Babies, Jane Porter, and X-Man in reserve with the Hell Carrier battle site. Of course, hoping to maybe boost one of his characters. Now, as they start to place out, it does look like Charlie had 2 discards to start this game off. But of course, to give you all the strategy insights into the game, I have brought you once again Tyler Bertrand, one of the greatest players in the world. Thank you for joining me, Tyler.
Hey, it's good to be here, and yeah, this is the second time we've seen Charlie's deck, and I think the first time we've seen Thomas's, and what I love about Thomas's deck, he probably has 6 different ways to kill his own team. Between Cthulhu, Joan of Arc, the Citadel, and yeah, he's just, you don't want to be his teammate, that's for sure.
Definitely a good venture manipulation style deck up at the top there by Thomas. Now, of course, Thomas really trying to activate new styles of play. Often you can see playing Joan for her inspirational leadership, thus providing very much a string-like style deck. Now, of course, Charlie on the other side, realizing he was down 2 cards, facing off against what looked like some very big cards placed on Thomas's side. He did get some good placing advantage there, did only lose 1 venture, and will actually go into this next round 1 card up.
Yeah, and it's that's a rough first draw for Charlie there. Like 2 discards in the first hand is always considered something that's like on the really unlucky side. And
as you can see, 2 inspirational leaderships as discards on Thomas's side, thus almost revealing that he is playing 3 of those in his deck.
Yeah, that is interesting, especially with the follow-up with that Invisible Woman 4, because that's not the greatest follow-up for that card, but this could just be one of those unlucky timing situations where they've overlapped. And the other issue is he can't place that last one either, so essentially, after this battle, the card is just rendered like basically gone, unless he's got another one, which I really doubt.
Now, of course, on Charlie's side, he did discard that avoid 1 attack, discard card from hand, not something you truly want to duplicate, as now he has revealed that information to Thomas. Now, if Thomas is focused and paying attention, he will lightly be able to play around that card. Now, of course, Charlie playing Pat and playing very unique in his own style, also having an X-Babies Lil Dazzler avoid in his hand. So he will get to avoid at some point an attack. However, of course, wanting to use that Jane Porter avoid to give you that 2-for-1 draw. Now, it looks like not only did Thomas have the discards, but he did have to place the 8 on Cthulhu as well. Charlie not realizing he is at a big advantage, and of course, this was just a round I believe Thomas was trying to place out and will probably concede after 1 or 2 attacks, depending on what's in his hand.
Yeah, he might throw 1 chain first, would be my guess, just to try to play that last copy of your Joan of Arc card. And if you don't see any chains coming back at you, then it might be worth it. Again, it depends on whether he can stop one or not.
Here it looks like the 3 ally, brute force, probably followed by the Joan of Arc inspirational leadership that we know is in his hand.
Oh.
It looks like Thomas has decided to play it.
And he played right
Interesting to play right into the avoid, clearly not paying attention to the actual discards of his opponent earlier in the round. Again, folks, you're not just playing your cards, you're playing your opponent's cards. Always keep that focus in mind.
It could also be that he's just planning on conceding after and doesn't need the other card. It's not going to be relevant. Could be on his defensive side if Charlie decides to throw a chain back, but
Charlie getting to use both of those avoids. Now the final attack being thrown here by Thomas. Now I can imagine Charlie realizing he's in a very good advantageous spot in this particular moment, using a placed card to avoid that, Might not have been the smartest move, as he should maybe start to recognize that Thomas was probably going to be out of this round after this initial attack.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think if that's the case, I would be looking to do some sort of long-term, either discarding a place card at this point or throwing my own chain back. But he's deciding to keep his place cards.
Now, using his card from his hand, of course, trying to not use his placed card towards it. He did not actually have a defense for that 4 other than the power card, so electing for the power card placement slot to be taken.
I might have even risked the red skull and tried for the white, the 6 discard 2, and maybe tried to throw that on Invisible Woman to see if I could get over.
Now, of course,
make him spend the protective plates.
Now, seeing that post, you do know that he probably has the protective plates under there if that his attack. Oh, and that is Charlie's big event. So that is the KO of DC event. Now, of course, Thomas not really keen on losing anybody at this particular junction, as he really hasn't seen too many cards for most people. Electing to kill Scarlet Witch, getting the -5, leaving it on the table so its knowledge is forward.
No negates now, though. And
Charlie electing to kill X-Babies with the negate placed on them.
I think that's the right call, and this is what makes that discarding all those feminist leaders really difficult on Thomas's side, because he's lost the ability to play that through the character that, I guess Scarlet Witch doesn't really chain stuff, but it's still...
Now, of course, Cthulhu having his own version of inspirational leadership, as well as Invisible Woman also having a version of that card.
They're all different colors, too, which is nice.
Definitely still a lot of string attacks to be played. Now, Charlie looking on his side for his own sort of string attacks.
And I believe that's the Super KL placed.
Now, of course, that is the Super Sweeper card, as we call it now, which is going to discard any cards in play or placed that have for remainder of battle or remainder of game. Now, looking across the board, he does not currently see any of those cards. So he actually is, at the current moment, visually getting 0 cards for that. Thomas might look at that actually as an advantage towards him, as a card advantage moment. Let's see how Thomas looks at his venture here.
I do think the card has a lot of value against his deck, though, because it does stop all of Cthulhu's game-based cards. It gets rid of all of Cthulhu's bodyguards, and it also gets rid of the bonus card for Joan of Arc, which I think is valuable. Even the post-protective plates, being able to stop that for free if you can get another card with it is pretty valuable, too. So
now Charlie has gone 2. It looks like Thomas has also gone 2. Now, Charlie is up 1 card in this round, so we will see if that single card will bring him the victory in this round. Now, remember what we mentioned, that Jane Porter card may be a discard, so it may be even at this moment. Teamwork coming out from Charlie's side, looking to see what the fuel to return is. As you can see, just trying to cumulative KO Invisible Woman. Of course, Thomas getting that +2 from her inherent ability currently. Now, that would be the KO shot, equaling 20 points of damage. Of course, definitely going to use the 1 to 9 to make sure that she stays alive and can at least get that 5 off should he want it.
I really like that play. I think forcing off the avoid as early as possible is key, because Thomas does not have a lot of defense of the deck now that Witch is gone, and you're really trying to pave the way for your big attacks and your White Tiger from Red Skull.
And knowing that he had to use that 1 to 9 on your 7, you could assume that the next attack actually would have had to been blocked by that protective plates. Now, I'm not necessarily sure if I would have thrown that 8 right there, knowing protective plates was going to block it. I might have opted for another 7 per se, the little Phoenix that you see there on Beyonder, which would have also been a kill shot, also forcing that protective plates to come out. But of course, you always have to make those micro decisions as you're playing each battle, and every little micro decision can make or break your game. Onslaught Citadel coming out. X-Man looks like 4 multi, may make 1 additional. Again, Thomas just eyeing Beyonder, absolutely despising the idea that he can play all the specials in Charlie's deck. Ooh, switching approach now. Going over to X-Man, trying to eliminate the grid aspect of Charlie's deck.
The way you have to factor this out is there's one per deck that X-Man has to protect himself, and there could be multiples of the avoid discard and X-Baby's avoids left. for Beyonder and Jane to protect themselves, so I would definitely be going after X-Man.
Now, of course, as he played the X-Man, Charlie did ask, who is that from? Thomas did tap Invisible Woman, and that is the follow-up from Invisible Woman. Now, just to give you those string rules, because Invisible Woman was the first person to start this string, she is able to continue it with her 3. Now, each opponent or each teammate may make one additional attack. However, the string will stop on the last opponent, even if that attack gives them an additional follow-up. Like, as you can see, the 3 that is placed to Cthulhu would give 2 teammates additional follow-up. He may now not throw those additional follow-ups after this 3.
Yeah,
that is the
over.
end of this chain. Now, whether or not Charlie understands that fully is its own question.
I guess my confusion with some of these chain rules is why he's able to make the follow-ups off the 3 initially when that came off an AA type card to begin with. I thought the rule was an ally only, but
as long as the string is initiated through one character,
Yeah.
you may continue all the additional attacks. So he might have actually, again, it was an activator, but he could have done an ally into a 4, make an additional into the 3. Now, I don't believe any of those characters have that, but it would have been a legal play.
Yeah.
Now, of course, as you can see, that 3 bringing the KO shot that I guess Charlie did not see coming, even though it was placed. Now, Charlie losing his whole grid structure now on his team. Can he somehow pull this game out?
Yeah, that's the one thing about chains that you have to be very wary of, is that they could definitely come out of nowhere and surprise you if you're trying to just kind of poke and play the odd card defensively. And now I almost feel like Charlie has very little to lose by continuing to play, but the more of these chains he eats, he could just be paying more and more for each hit that he's... I think he really wants to get one back after losing the character, but it could cost him a second one.
Thomas plying the pressure, continuously coming at him with his own teamwork and 2 follow-ups. Thomas just stringing attack after attack, saying, you must defend everything I throw.
And that's what they say, the best defense is a good offense sometimes, and the fact that Beyonder is a max 6 is not good at this point, but this is why Hellcarrier is great. It gives him that backup where he could still get Beyonder to an 8 or a functional grid at some point later in the game with a good Hydra.
Now, that is not for the KO. Now, interesting that he did elect to block that, even though it was not for the KO. Now, that's interesting in my mind because that was the fuel for the teamwork that he is holding in his hand.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that from Charlie, and I don't know if that's something that he should maybe reconsider or work on, but I believe that's a kill shot as well, so she dies. But just a lot of teamwork's being left in hand. That might be just the nature of the Beyonder deck.
Now, of course, as you can see, Thomas going for the full team KO here. Just non-stop pressure. Plying. Now, this is a Red Skull 6.
Oh, no, not there.
On Cthulhu. Now, of course, you must discard 2 cards playable by Cthulhu, either placed or in hand.
I mean, this would allow him to continue to play that card. He doesn't have to discard that, which is why I would have put that on Joan of Arc. Unless he's already got Venture figured out.
Now, of course, the Joan power card would have been able to defend that right away.
Oh, see that? He's not supposed to discard that. I think that might be just some confusion around the way the card works, because its target character must discard 2. It's not opponent, and there is a distinction between those. It's very small nuance, and it's very confusing if you're not used to this card effect.
So as I mentioned, of course, that going on to Cthulhu, the card text does read, target character must discard 2 cards playable by Cthulhu, either in hand or placed. Now, of course, that 7 was placed to Joan, so that was not something that must be discarded, even though it's playable by Cthulhu. That might have been a big turning point. Let's see if Charlie can take advantage of this moment.
And what is confusing about it is that the cards from hand don't have to be playable by Cthulhu. It's any cards from hand, and then anything on the table has to be playable by the character. So that includes even cards on the home base get ignored this way too.
Now, of course, as we sit here, it doesn't look like an interesting final sort of moment in this game being set up, as Beyonder will be able to play all specials, however, limited power cards from Charlie's deck, where it looks like Thomas losing a couple of characters might be in his own situation where he might have a lot of discards. This might come down to who has more discards as we move forward. Charlie revealing that teamwork in his hand, which he did initially have the power card to play.
Okay, and I guess they didn't. I guess they didn't catch the rule on the White Tiger card or on the Red Skull 6, but that's fine. I don't think it would have gave him a second color on Beyonder, but I think he was going to concede anyway after this, so it didn't matter as much. But
I think the big pivotal thing about that 6 being allowed to go through is Thomas, including with that amazing venture lead he seems to have in this game, would have had a power card or at least +1 moving forward into this round.
Card. That's a good point.
Now, of course, as mentioned, Charlie does have a lot of cards. Now, interesting play here. The KO card on the other side has been played. However, Charlie does not have a character to KO in this situation. So he is immune to that card. Across the table, Thomas must make a tough decision right now.
One fun effect with that event is that if Charlie were playing something like Onslaught Citadel and Beyonder had an Obfuscate played to him, this would make a one-sided KO where Thomas would have to KO one of his 2 characters, even though because the making Charlie immune to the event wouldn't end the game, therefore he would have to still proceed with the one side of the event.
Because he doesn't, so he doesn't. That doesn't make any sense. Why? And of course, as we continue on here, Charlie just looking for anything to sort of scream or reach back for this game. Now, of course, you can see Thomas just placing out, looking like he's going to try and push his placing advantage to just slowly edge this game out in his favor.
Now, that Hydra is big because I don't believe Thomas has played his negate from his battle site yet, but that Hydra card being able to bump Beyonder up to an 8 is going to be crucial. That being able to succeed could swing the game back into Charlie's favor, where even Cthulhu having 2 hits is good enough that if he could play his entire team's specials and Beyonder have his grid back, he's going to be in really good shape.
And as you can see, one of the first plays he might play is that 4 multi into the X-Men 7. Both hits being a KO on Cthulhu. Now, of course, you do see a Holocaust on the other side, typically either an avoid or a negate or a potential Tuck-style venture card.
Could even be the 5, but I doubt he's going to want to play that 5, especially given the Hydra placed, and all he's doing it for would be to remove the hit. So I doubt that would be an option. But
could only be maybe a potential late round option for him. Now, as you can see, Thomas has ventured 2 here, so he does believe he's going to actually take this round. We are just waiting. They're jockeying for thoughts. Now, Thomas is first to act.
Yeah,
what is his action?
This is going to be an interesting battle. I think a lot is going to be determined here because I think Charlie has enough cards in hand where I think he does have to play a little bit. But if Thomas does have another chain setup or something interesting on that side, I think he'll put a lot of pressure on him.
And of course, Charlie not really using much of his gas so far. Oh, interesting moment. I think Thomas, after venturing, realized very quickly he does not have much defense for Cthulhu and has to sort of run to sort of look for more defense as he continues the game. Big moment for Charlie. Definitely getting those 2 to Thomas's defeated and gaining his own venture back. Must discard the illusionary reality, not gaining that, and of course, duplicate 4, still having 6 cards in his hand. Thomas going through a massive discard here, looking at 4 discards. Now, he did have placing advantage going through with 1 card, but it looks like that just got evened right back out with all those discards. Now, the advantage, of course, Beyonder being able to play all specials in Charlie's deck, and Thomas having to discard any character who has KO'd specials at the moment.
Yeah, I also hope that Charlie realizes he doesn't have to discard high power cards because he has the capability to increase the grid through Hydra. So he doesn't have to discard those, especially to the dead pile. The other great combo that Charlie has if there's another Hydra in his deck and he knows that is to be able to go fetch a gather info from the Citadel to pull out that 9 venture that's sitting on Cthulhu before he gets KO'd. Or even grabbing the post 4 multi from the opposing battle site to throw that. He also has the ability to go into the other opposing dead pile and play anything as well. So that Hydra is a monster activator right now.
Now, I will
Oh,
say
actually,
this.
sorry, he can't play the one per deck, so that's not an option.
Charlie is holding an energy teamwork in his hand. Now, in most cases, you would actually be able to hold that even with one character remaining. However, if you actually look at Charlie's current grid, he cannot actually play that at the moment. And I do believe that would be a discard, even though he does have the Hydra potential to boost at the moment.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because, yeah, that's that. If it's the grid capability, it fails the check and would have to be discarded. But the Hydra protects him from that. So, oh, there's a duplicate. That's a bad dupe because that Hydra, being able to play that offensively too, would have been a big offensive play. Yeah, that's just bad.
Using his avoid early on from Nick Fury, allowing him to avoid an energy icon and draw a power card. Now, of course, maybe using the Hydra first on that energy icon to give himself that 8 boost might have been the better play there. But now playing out with that Jane Porter 2.
I missed the attack. What was the attack that he used the Nick Fury on? Okay. Because, I mean, if it was a teamwork, that wouldn't give him the boost on the Hydra, but it would give him the ability to avoid draw with it.
Now, looking across the table, he's seeing the Joan of Arc, Protection of St. Michael, avoid 1 combat icon. No intelligence attacks may continue for remainder of battle. Charlie holding some decent cards here still in his hand.
Oh, we got a mutant Gestalt. I love it. Now, that has actually been eroded, so it's not an and. It's not a 2-color hit. It is just one or the other.
Now, of course, that is coming as a 7, as he did play it with EFL.
Now, I immediately play my Hydra to give him 8 energy. Yeah, that's the correct play. Because there's not going to be many opportunities where you're going to get a clean energy icon like that. And that's exactly what you do. He did exactly what he was supposed to there. Now we have a really tight game.
Now Thomas looking across the board, realizing that he is now facing an 8 energy, 6 intellect Beyonder. And this might actually be an uphill battle for him at the moment.
Yeah, he definitely still has a lot of cards and a lot of horsepower still. That's a big card because it stops the multi as well.
And here we go. That's a Jane Porter 5. If successful, must discard top 3 cards from his draw pile.
That could actually help him at this point if he gets unusables.
And here's the 3. They are discarded from the game.
Oh, no, he got all clean cards, so that's helpful. That X-Man would have probably been a big deal. Because he might be running the 1 per deck on X-Man instead of Post.
And of course, anytime you can get rid of any of his character's specials, including that Cthulhu 3, is a very important moment.
Yeah, and if that's the last X-Man for the lockout as well, then that's the last opportunity Cthulhu has to be permanently defended that way by one of those cards.
And also knowing it's another defensive card out of his battle site, getting rid of that X-Man. Now, of course, let's see the return volley. Big attack, 7 intelligence. Coming across the table.
Yeah, he has no power card defense.
He has no way to block that.
It's unfortunate, too, because now the 11 is... Oh, actually, it's still not a kill shot, which is helpful, but it stopped him from being able to negate, like, the Joan of Arc card or any of the stuff that's going to linger for the rest of the game. But I think it's just that.
Now, as this game continues on, I truly do believe Charlie might actually slowly sway into an advantage here. Not only be able to hold all his power cards, but all of his specials as well. Now, of course, in this situation, all it would take is for Thomas to have 1 or 2 bad battles in a row, and Charlie truly could take advantage. As you can see, just Thomas shedding cards left, right, and center. 3 cards discarded this round. Now, of course, he did have 3 cards placed moving forward, so he did actually have at the time a 2-card advantage moving forward into this round.
Now, I do see another Hydra in Charlie's hand, and again, that Hydra is a big deal. If he can fetch a Holocaust 5 to remove a hit, that's a big remove for him, and to be able to counterpunch with an attack at the same time. That could be a big card. A Gather Info is huge. That is also under his battle sight right now.
Now, we will see earlier in the tournament, we did notice someone who had just Beyonder remaining play a 1 per deck, which is an illegal move through Beyonder.
Yep.
Now, of course, Charlie must keep that in his own mind at the moment, as he cannot play the Hydra 1 per deck currently, as Beyonder is his only character remaining. Thus, he must only use Hydra cards that are non-1 per deck.
Yeah, that's a really tricky interaction to remember sometimes, because you're very rarely ever left with just Beyonder. Usually the card is playable and playable by a teammate. Like, it's one of those things where most of the time you can still get the effect if a teammate plays it. Outside of that, Beyonder doesn't need to play it themselves. So,
and of course, here we go. Definitely a lot of cards placed at the moment. Looking forward to see who's going to pull this round out. Four cards in Charlie's hand, trying to decide what he's going to do here. Slowly, actually, I think, pulling this game more back into his favor. Now, really unique play you can see in Charlie's hand. Playing that little Iceman would actually remove that Joan of Arc card in play.
and I think that does help with something like a Holocaust 5 if you want to play that to get that through. I think it is worth. It's just the issue that he has is he's still short defense. He needs some high power cards, and he's just not getting them. And I think he might actually have to throw his hand away.
As you can see, neither of them really pushing for the venture win here. This might be a game again where we might actually see a KO victory.
Yeah, the teamworks Charlie's drawing have really been a problem for him, actually. He's getting 1 to 2 teamworks per hand, and I think they're actually really slowing him down. And the fact that his power card, his 4, has been the highest power card he's drawn. He can't defend anything high.
Now, of course, he is able to hold those teamworks as bluffs at the current moment because of that boost that he got from Hydra. Now, this is starting to come down. Now, Thomas has entered his power pack. Very pivotal moment, because I truly believe if you could get into a situation where you eliminate Cthulhu, you might be in a really good situation here, having an 8 versus 7.
I think he needs to do that, because if Joan of Arc can throw cards at a bonus and could get a 7 or 6 up to an 8 or a 9 and get over to make that 11 a kill shot, he can negate it, but then the 8's going to be difficult to block, and he's going to have a world of trouble here. So I think that, I mean, I guess we know where Charlie's power cards went. They were all in this hand. But I think it's going to be interesting, because I think now he has a hand that he can legitimately play. It's unfortunate the 4 is still there and he can't place a high one, but...
Now, Charlie holding 10 total cards. It looks like Tomas also has 10 total cards in this round. So this might actually be the round where we see some fireworks pop off. Yep. Tomas looking at his battle site, realizing he only has 2 venture to go to win this game. However, as any OverPower player knows, those last ventures are the hardest to get there.
Charlie's got a really nice chain there with the Enex, the 4, and another follow-up even with the 4 multi. Now, the reason the Anex is playable is because that is an attack coming from the home base and not Beyonder himself. Beyonder had to play that aspect card. It wouldn't be playable being a 1 per deck. I think it's 1 per deck specials anyway is the rule for Beyonder. So I think it's still playable as an aspect 1 per deck, but still, it's just something to keep note of, is that it's coming from the home base.
Very good point out. And as Thomas just went through his Citadel, he did say, I am going for the win. I believe I have it. We're even on cards. Now, of course, seeing that Holocaust card, he knows he definitely has a Venture Manipulator card right there. Let's see what happens. Of course, Tomas does have initiative. Looking at touching that ally. Are we going to see a 3 into an 11 at this moment in time?
I think so. I think he's going to have to make everything low must defend. That's why I really think that Hydra becoming that Holocaust 5.
Now 3 into that 11. Thomas really wanted to get rid of that negate in that moment. Of course, Charlie using his AG Avoid from his deck, looking like he still has a few more cards he can even draw from his deck. Tomas fully in power pack on his last few cards of this last battle. Here's that string that you were talking about, Tyler. Here's that 4 any home base. Probably going to be strung right into that 4 multi as well, looking for the KO shot. Now, he does have a 4 multi placed on him, so he will be able to defend it right there. However, he realizing probably quickly as he defends this moment, he might not be able to defend this final attack. Let's see what Charlie's last move is.
I really would have preferred the one intellect from
I
him.
think he should have thrown the one intellect, forcing a big card to be used as defense. However, the 4 will still garner the same defense that 1 would have had.
Yep.
However, now that 1 being the venture total that you're probably going to get across the board as opposed to the 4. Those 3 points could be quite huge as we get to the end of this battle.
Yeah, I also think that there's probably only one in his deck going to power pack, similar to what we said in the last game. Whereas the 4 multi would be a better long-term hit to be on Joan of Arc than the 1 would be.
Tomas looking deep into the Citadel, looking deep for a way to make this happen. I'm assuming maybe has his Beyonder in his hand and has access to all the cards, but is looking for the best option to choose. Now I could see maybe the EE from Sentinels being his choice here, or will he use the Straight Avoid? Now if he has the Straight Avoid under Holocaust, he's going to want to try to elect a different Holocaust card here.
I could even see something really off the wall where you play a Beyonder to negate the 6, the Red Skull 6, to keep your Cthulhu alive. There could be a lot of interesting plays where I think that's almost a must negate on Charlie's end if he does choose to do that, assuming he doesn't take the other hit, and it leaves him with 1 hit.
Looks like he's choosing Impervious Crystal from Holocaust. He is avoiding the attack, thus giving Charlie all the information that using your big avoid like that is probably his last defense.
Yes, this also clears the way for that Hydra becoming that 5 if it is under his Citadel.
Now, where will Tomas push here? Where will Tomas push? Looking again under his Citadel.
That gather info is really juicy now too, with that pulling out that 9 venture if you have that Hydra. So I mean that's the other thing for Thomas to consider is you almost have to play your offense just so Charlie can play it back at you.
Now I think truthfully he really wanted that 11 to eat the negate.
Yep.
To stop him from doing any venture manipulation at the end of this battle. Now of course that 1 we just mentioned being a KO shot. Now Tomas must do something with this or else Cthulhu is KO'd.
That 1 would turn my stomach if I was having to defend that with one of the last 2 cards in my hand at this point in the battle, so well played.
Now, of course, letting Cthulhu get KO'd, getting your 1 attack over on the other board, and then potentially using Joan of Arc's Burned at the Stake would be an epic finish to this game. However, the timing would have to be perfect.
Yeah, I don't see how Thomas pulls this out based on how many cards he has. I think this is tough.
Looking deep in the Citadel for an answer, as many players have in the past.
It usually has one, so that's why you always want to double check it.
Tomas looking to play his last card. Really thinking he's going to pull this venture out.
Okay, and he had to force the Master Mold to 1.
And of course, that was the Beyonder we referenced. Forced to Master Mold to 1. Forced to defend it. Now, of course, Thomas looking at 2 cards in his hand. Neither is actually going to KO. And Tomas runs away, understanding that the next shot probably is going to KO his character. Now, interesting here, as you see, Charlie starting to sway back in this game. That was really a big final 2 that I think Tomas really needed to and finish this game off with. We'll see if Charlie, with 3 more cards left in his deck and an 8 character, can slowly sway this game back to himself. Of course, remembering that great Hydra card that can still go into the Citadel and pull out a great card. Now, that might be very limited now as we start to move on, as you know, Tomas has had the ability to use a lot of his specials out of there, but I imagine there could be 1 or 2 very, very tough specials, including that postcard you mentioned earlier in the round, where he could then potentially pull out that 9 venture on Thomas's side.
Yeah, that would be my win condition setup if I were Charlie, is that get to the point where I could venture for the win, use Hydra to pull the 9 out, and then just get 1 more hit, throw your 8 on Joan of Arc or whatever you have to. Avoid the bonus from the other card. I would even consider negating it first, then throwing the 8 at her, and then with your 8 and 9, you could let Beyonder die and win the game.
Interesting strategy. Good thought process there, Tyler. Thank you for that. Of course, as we continue this round, Charlie looking down at 5 cards, 3 placed, total for 8. And of course, Tomas on the other side of the board, still placed out with 3 cards. Now, going into Power Pack, I do not believe that he has any more specials for Joan. So I think that ally is just sitting there as a dead card. Now, both of them just playing slow overpower where they're over overventuring. Now, of course, here, Charlie did go 3, giving Tomas a card, and Tomas going 2 back at him. And here's that initial card, understanding what he can do now.
Oh, he's playing the Hydra. Oh, see, he doesn't realize he can't play that.
Well, let's see right now if Tomas catches that Beyonder may not play a 1 per deck. Let's find out if people still have this in their mind. Does Tomas allow it to go through? He does. He does not grasp that, of course, he can play it. Sadly allows an 11 attack to come on his own character, which he cannot defend.
Yeah.
And as we see here, friends, focus not only on your cards, on the opponent's cards. Understand the rule sets and understand the cards in play.
And what's tough about this, we don't know what happened officially. A judge may have made a call in the previous game that allowed the play. I doubt it. But that's actually technically him fetching a 1 per deck with the card as well, so...
Now, of course,
that would be legal, but...
we did see Tomas lose, we did see Charlie lose a game earlier where that actual exact play was played on him, so he truly is just tit for tatting it. Now, of course, though, still not a viable play at the moment.
And he might assume that the play was legal because it was played against him, and that's something that... This is why we try to state, if you're a new player, just double check with the judge no matter what, because that's unfortunate that this is one of the issues with the chain of events that happens when somebody does misplay.
Now, of course, using that X-Baby's Negate to remove EFL off the board, thus giving Beyonder a true advantage moving forward. Now, using big power cards to defend, however, as you can see, a 6 intelligence about to come across the board here. Not much Tomas has in terms of ability to defend. Once EFL's off the board, a lot of his lower power cards are not going to reach up there.
And that makes an 8 a kill shot, which essentially ends the game, so... I mean, at this point, Charlie can concede, draw an 8, and then just throw it to kill him. But
knowing that, of course, Joan will have no way to stop it. Now, as you can see there, Tomas shaking the hand, calling the game, maybe when he turns around, will realize that take an extra minute, focus, and think about what your opponent is doing. Great game by both sides. Have to say, really one of those slobber knocker kind of events where both decks were really pulling off what they were trying. Unique how they both had KO card events, and they came off in such unique different mannerisms. Thank you, Tyler, for all your amazing strategic insight into this game. And again, we will see you in round 7. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I think that was a great game. I think everybody played that fairly well. The issue was just the stuff that happened at the end, and everybody's trying to sort out what was going on there. But outside of that, I think both decks, it was interesting because they both kind of fell into their own in the mid game, which normally you can see one pull away at the start, or usually more towards the early mid game as opposed to middle late, which is what this game was. So great game though.
And of course, you can realize that these two players did play in a tournament the day before that lasted almost 12 to 13 hours on its own accord. Tomas himself being in the finals of that tournament, he might just be feeling the fatigue of 2 major tournaments back to back. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you in the last round of the Swiss to see who will make it into the top 8 of the OP Cup 2025. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.